Jay Massey is a full-time real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur.
He also teaches people how to find deals, raise capital for real estate investments.
Meeting Jay Massey in person, you'd think he's just a regular guy. He's got jeans and a t-shirt on and a pair of sneakers. But he's built up a multi-million-dollar empire.
I hope you do have an empty notebook because it's going home filled.
Jay gives back so much value that I've never seen.
Now, at this moment, when I'm looking at the kitchen, things are going through my head.
You want to be friends with him, and he treats you like you're the only person in the room, even though it's for the benefit of everybody.
This is how, when you ask yourself, how does Jay do it? This is how.
He tells people that they have to take action, and they have to take action now. I took the action, and the results have paid off.
What happens when the marketplace understands who we are and how we go out there?
Hey guys, hopefully things are going well for you today. Glad that you have decided to drop on in. Okay, got it. So things might look a little different today. Maybe some of you were able to participate or you saw the presentation that we had last week, whereby we were talking with an expert in personal development, helping people go out there, become bigger, better, and badder. And if you happen to miss that presentation, feel free to go over to CashFlowDiary.com/action. Again, that's CashFlowDiary.com/action, because you want to make sure that you watch the recording. Anyway, the studio's all flipped, turned upside down, if you will, because, well, you know, he was here and it took a second to get back together. But I'm glad that you guys have decided to be here today. I definitely appreciate you being here today. And I'm excited to make this thing happen. So many of you already know how this works. Here's how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are students, I will be able to see your messages here inside the Facebook group on my phone. And for those of you who are not yet students, or maybe you're watching on YouTube or on our Facebook page, feel free to call on in, 417-352-2274, because I would love for people to get that way we could get a whole bunch of calls today and actually get a lot of your questions answered. Plus, I see some people typing furiously in the chat box, so we'll do our best to catch all the questions and make this thing happen for you. So for those of you who I have not met yet, welcome. My name is Jay, and CEO of CashFlowDiary. As you may already know, but in case you don't, all we simply do is short-term rentals. That's the name of the game. I've been in the real estate space for quite some time. Many of you, maybe you know me from cell phone towers or apartment buildings and all kinds of other things. In my opinion, the best place to start a real estate career today is inside the short-term rental space, which is, again, that's exactly what we teach. That's what we're about. So hopefully that's why you're here. Maybe you have questions around business or real estate or short-term rentals, what have you. Definitely put those in the chat because we want to make sure that we get them answered. All right. Now, with that being said, what I want to do is I want to also make sure if you saw the title of this particular one, I made a statement about Airbnb. For those of you who are out there who are operators right now, maybe you've been operating for a long time or a short period of time. Either way it goes, you've been operating a certain way, and things change. So that's one of the things that we'll be talking about today, is things that have changed, things that are changing. We're in a new space, and one of those things that has changed is that you shouldn't have ever been, but you really can't have Airbnb as your one-trick pony for bringing your customers to you. So there's a couple of articles that have come out over the past 7 days or so that I want to bring to your attention, so we will definitely talk about those. But with all of that being said, it does look like we have a caller, so let me get over here and see who this is. And remember, for those of you calling in, be nice to Megan, okay? Because she controls whether or not you get here and get to talk or not. So just remember that. All right. Let's see how this goes. 1, 2, 3. Boom. And And caller, looks like you're in LA. How are you doing? You're live with me, Jay.
Hi, Jay. It's Dave. How are you? Davey.
Dave again. All right, we have you're becoming a regular, man.
Yeah, I'm a regular call-in.
Regular caller. So
I
now
love
I
it. I
see
love
why
this
you were
show.
so you were so serious about how can we do this if we don't have an Android device or something else, because you just wanted to keep calling in. I got it. I like it. It's all good.
That's right.
What can I do you for today, sir?
Yeah. I was wondering, what's your system on rewarding or having to punish or get rid of cleaners who are contractors and other people, runners who are contractors that work for you?
Got it. So this is around personnel, internal controls, quality assurance. Totally get it, 100%. And the way that I have found that works is to be very, very clear with the metrics on which you are gauging someone by, and being clear from the beginning about what that is. So let me give you an example of what I mean. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples. One that doesn't directly apply, but probably should, given the level of revenue that I happen to know that you're generating. My executive assistant, for example, I know what our revenue company-wide is before we had an executive assistant. So to me, that means when he or she is present, that I should be able to see a significant difference in that revenue. Now you say, but they're not sales or customer facing. That's true, except what they should be able to help me or our sales staff or whomever it is in your organization be more productive. And that productivity should show up in that way. Does that make sense? So when you have a clear understanding of what you're judging individuals by, and it's communicated keywords, it makes it really easy for them to perform, which also makes it easy for you to let them go. All right. So one of the things that we do, so from a short-term rental perspective or even closer, is there's a cleaning score that is given. There's a specific cleaning score for all of the reservations that come from Airbnb, and then on the other platforms, vis-a-vis either the private comments or the reviews themselves, we have the ability to gauge the quality of the cleaning in an objective manner, because it's not us saying it, it's what the guests are saying, and that's really key. Yeah. Setting a minimum, like you wouldn't work for less than minimum wage today, because you know that your time, your effort, your skill sets are worth more. Same is true here. You should set a minimum for all of your personnel, so that and let them know what that minimum is. Maybe it's a 4.7, 4.8, 4.9. I don't really care.
Is yours 4.8?
What's that? The cleaning score? It's back up there because we had a problem.
Is your median that you judge 4.8?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Say that.
It is.
I'm sorry. Are you asking me? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm asking you, what do you set your minimum at? Because I also have I've got a system where every time an Airbnb or HomeAway or other review comes in, my VAs log all of the scores into our own system.
Right. So
and then each contractor is given like a report card.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're doing it fine, and you just got to set that minimum where that is. And again, it could be territorial, somewhat brand specific, because if you're running the higher end shop, you're probably going to have that number be a 4.9, maybe 4.85 at the lowest. If you are running something maybe on the lower end, that's not to say they deserve less service or less clean places, but you might be more tolerant of a lower number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Do you ever, if you get an individual review, let's say of that says that this clean was not good and this this place was not was dirty, do you ever take away a portion of the money that you were supposed to pay the contractor? Do you ever dock them, or do you not?
And it's not a portion; it's usually 100%.
Usually just pay them 100%, and then if
No,
they're,
no,
if
no,
they're
no.
bad enough,
It's
you
not
just get rid
docking
of them.
them. It's not docking them a portion. It's usually taking 100%. Because oftentimes in those cases, what has happened is that the guest has requested a refund or the cleaning fee, or maybe Airbnb is authorized. There's something going on where it has cost us money that it was, quote unquote, not our fault. Does that make sense?
Okay, so if there's a problem with the cleaning, you won't pay for that cleaning.
You got it. Well, within
right?
reason. We obviously give them a chance to fix it, but it's usually in the cases where it's like the ball was just dropped really hard, and what we have to do is we have to figure out how to make it right, and part of making it right may be compensating the guest, and in this case, that's when it can really become something that affects them. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've got to set all of these in advance in the contract that we have the vendors sign, the cleaners sign.
Sure.
And I'm going to take those tips and tricks, and I'm going to put them in the contract, so that everybody knows ahead of time.
Well, it's a good thing to put it in the contract, but putting it in the contract, my friend, is great. But I would rather hear you say, like I know inside our materials we have the dashboard. Inside that dashboard, we talk about having your stand-up or weekly meetings with your team. One of the things you should be doing is that, and on those meetings, that's when you begin to share with them, hey, congratulations, everybody. In the last 30 days, your score went up, 0.3 or 20 basis points or whatever. And this is awesome. Keeping it in front of them, having them sign a contract is one thing. Keeping it in front of them is what I'm really talking about. Does that make it? Do you understand?
Yeah, definitely. So you definitely do like monthly,
yes,
report cards with them.
Yes.
And
that's
the only thing I'm afraid of is just legally. I don't want to get into any trouble.
Of what?
I don't with not paying. Because
totally
I'm in
understood.
California.
It's not like I just don't pay them. It's a conversation that we're having in the sense of, hey, here's what happened. How do you suggest we fix it? We have to compensate the guest. Here's what we're thinking. Is that okay? It's a two-way street. They understand what's going on, assuming that it cannot be fixed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if they say
it's not a unilateral decision.
I think you should pay me anyways. You just pay them and then get rid of them at a later date.
If that's the kind of relationship that that's not a person who's thinking the way that they need to be thinking.
Okay, great.
Not for
that
my
helps a lot.
organization.
I
Anyway.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. Let's get to the next one. Thanks for
calling in. Yeah, man. Great talking to you.
Yeah, I'm glad. So for those of you who are here for maybe the first or second or I don't know, third time, Davey here. So the ones that you just heard, he's kind of responsible for the thought process that I went through, because he wanted to be able to communicate and to talk without some of the restrictions that our prior system had. So anyway, he's here, and because he was asking the question, we went to work and started thinking about it. All right, we got a caller from Michigan. Let's see who we've got here. And again, if you guys want to call in, feel free. It's number should be on the screen, 417-352-2274. And who am I talking with?
Hey, Jay, it's April from the Detroit area.
Yep.
In Michigan.
I remember you, April. How are you? It's been what, 2 weeks since your training?
We took the training 30 days ago, my husband, Brian, and I. So it's been a busy 30 days. We've been working after work. We've been working a lot. We've been,
Good.
We've been excited. We've been taking all the classes. We've been reading the books. We've been doing the vision. We've been, driving around. We've been doing everything. And it's been working.
There's a lot to do.
We've had a lot to do. But we've had great progress, and we actually got a place that we wanted. We had the landlord on board, and we got to the part where it was like, all right, let's sign the lease.
Yes.
And so this is the part that we had a little trouble with, because we never really had experience kind of talking through this before with the landlord. So I don't really think we really went about it the right way. So we had like a 1.5 hour conversation with the landlord last night, going through all the items in the lease that we would need to have removed in order to do our business, right? So It was a good conversation. He agreed with the items. You know, we had talks about it and we felt comfortable about it. But at the end, it kind of felt like he started to think like this was going to be too much work for him, like going through this negotiation. So like, you know, some of it was he had a problem with mounting TVs on the wall. That was like his only problem, which sounds crazy, right? So we had an idea that we were going to have Latanya and them talk to him about how we would fix the walls if there was any damage and all of that. And so we set that up. We were going to have him talk today. But then today he ignored my phone call and then sent me an email and said, you know, this is starting to feel like too much work. You know, I think we're going to have to pass on this deal. So my question to you is, should I be going about this a different way? Like, should I not be picking apart a lease? Should I instead, like, is there a better strategy? Because I think he might be got offended that what he kept saying was his lawyer spent a lot of time making this lease and this is a good lease, and, you know, he didn't feel comfortable taking things out and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure that when we get to the lease part, we're almost ready to go. You know, we're doing everything right to close the deal.
Got it. Totally understood. So, let me say you win the award for the first person who ever bring this to the table in this way. No one has ever. I'm like, you did what? Okay, so in general, so one, I'm gonna refer you back to, I want to say it's module 1, section 8. It's where we go through the lease, and it's brief because there's not much to deal with outside of making sure that you have the clause either added or as an addendum that specifically allows you to practice and do short-term rentals. That's number one. And then after that, there's usually a clause around marketing that tends to be standard or can be standard depending on your jurisdiction. So between those two things, the only other thing that you should encounter any sort of resistance with is going to be around the making sure that the lease is in the company name. And with all of that said, yes, that doesn't mean you ignore the other stuff in the lease. It does mean, though, that those are the three main things that tend to come up across the board that need to be addressed. And if you're addressing something that's not those three things, does make me kind of wonder, like, what could I'm like, when you're saying what you're saying to me as you were communicating, I'm like, what could have been in the lease, like that she felt the need, or that you felt the need that you had to say something or disclose something about it, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so he specifically said you cannot mount TVs on the wall, you cannot hang pictures on the wall or put holes in the wall, you do not have a designated parking spot. But when we were there and we were talking to him, he showed us a parking spot that was a designated parking spot. And, you know, we talked to him about how we were going to mount TVs. And he felt, so I was like, you have this in your lease, just so you know, we talked about this. And, you know, like, we're really going to do this. And we have a parking spot, right? So it was those things that I was like, we can get rid of those things, right? You know, and so we actually had like 12 items that I think maybe he just never had anyone read through his lease. And he was like, I don't really follow those things. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to make sure you're going to follow them for my business to work, you know?
Got it. You did the right thing, that's for sure. And that's hyper strange. Because
right? And he seemed like a good guy. We spent a lot of time talking to him. Like, I spent the past weeks talking to him every day on the phone, and I'm like, wow, you're gonna go through all of this
Twilight
and then
Zone right there.
Ignore my phone call all because of mounting a TV. So I'm down the path of maybe this wasn't the right landlord, and I'm fine with that. But I just want to make sure for the next landlord that I talk to, maybe is it the right way to not go through the whole entire lease and maybe just give them the addendum with the things that I need? And
no. You always have to go through
it that way.
You have to go through the lease. So you relating this story to me now, sounds like I probably would have been in a very similar position. Like, I probably would have come up with some of the same concerns. I may have used different words to bring them up. Let me ask this question. How many units are we talking about in this case? Is this an apartment building or a house?
It's an apartment building. It's just one unit. Just
Got
one.
it. And did he have more units? Do you know?
he did have more units, and we talked to him about possibly working with him in the future, and he was open to that. And he had, one he's going to fix up, and we definitely opened up that conversation. He kept saying this, I haven't did this before, but it's interesting. I'm intrigued. Like he was,
Got it.
He was definitely open to that.
Okay, got it. Now I understand. All right. So here's what I can tell you definitively. The more units, the more revenue you're bringing to the table, the easier it is to have this type of conversation. And I also get it, April. You're like, this is my first one. I'm kind of nervous still. Got it.
Right. Yeah.
So, however, what I would love for you to start to do is to use future language. For example, say I'm in your situation and I'm now talking to the guy. I'm going to say things like, well, right in this particular location, we're only currently looking for 1 unit to start. However, ultimately, anytime we set up shop anywhere, we prefer to have no less than 5 units in that particular building. Is that something that you'd be open to? Do you hear the difference in what I said?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And from that point forward, I am always talking about I will say things in order for all 5 of the units to operate smoothly and to make sure that we can upkeep our security procedures and maintain quiet enjoyment for the rest of the tenants. Here's what we need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely think I could have worded everything better, but
I understand.
The more practice, hopefully I can polish it. So
no. Hold on, we got to work on that. It's not you can. It's not hopefully.
I will.
You will absolutely, because again, practice makes improvement, and at the end of the day, he or she who's willing to fail fast, fail forward, and fail frequently is going to be the one that ultimately wins this thing, because it is definitely a land grab situation. I was just having a conversation with one of my oldest daughters, and because we were playing a game, I think it's called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. It's a virtual reality game. Anyway, and it's it's a game and it has no consequences, but I was witnessing her experience fear of making a wrong choice in a game where the consequences are minimal at best. It's embarrassment in front of your dad at worst. Like, come on, seriously? And we ended up stopping because this concept of not being willing to fail fast, fail forward, fail frequently was right there in the room. And I'm like, no, honey. She's like, I don't understand. Why can't I learn this? And I just told her straight out, it's because you're trying to get it right the first time and you're unwilling to fail. Period. Because you're unwilling to fail, you put so much pressure on you and you waste a whole bunch of time stressing over the decision. Go fail. Now, fail and don't learn from it, now we got a problem, right? But fail and learn from it, now you're further ahead. And that's the secret, April, is the faster you do what you just did. Like if this time next week you've had 7 more of these types of conversations, you'll be a different person and your results will also be different. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I honestly already feel like a different person, which I didn't expect from this. So it's been great.
It's what we
crazy.
do.
Crazy
It's
good.
sneaky. It's sneaky. You're like, oh, cool. I'm more confident. Yes, you are. I know. It's what we do. It's what we do. Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Oh,
Well,
awesome.
thanks, Jay.
No problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have another call. It looks like it is, who's this? Crystal from Tampa, Florida. Awesome. How are you doing, Crystal? Crystal?
Hi, Jay.
Oh, there you are.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for accepting the call. So my name is Crystal, and this is my first time on.
Yes.
And we just joined the team this week. Myself
wow.
and my partner. Her name is Serena. She's probably smiling from ear to ear right now.
Serena Williams?
Serena Williams, yes.
You know what we did? Okay, quick story, because I know this happens. It's got to happen to her every day. When my entire staff stopped when we saw the name, because we were like, no way. Because I mean, stuff like that has happened. We've had some actors, we've had professional players of various different sports, and everybody stopped and was like, no way. And we're like, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Every time I sign or like RSVP the stuff for us, I'm always like, not that Serena Williams, but
Right.
still a very important Serena Williams.
That's great. Yeah, I can only imagine that's a daily occurrence over there. Got it. Anyway, sorry, I distracted. Go ahead.
Sure. So as I mentioned, we're just getting started, and we're making several calls, and the last caller kind of cleared up a couple of questions that I had.
Oh.
But we're just getting started. We're trying to nail down our first rental, and we're taking different approaches. We're getting over the phone a lot of apprehension, and so we're trying to set up some appointments for the weekend to actually see the places in person. So my question is, do you find that you have more success when you are having the conversation in person, so people can kind of get a feel for, who you are as a person? Or do you just kind of, like you said, is it really just a numbers game and you just kind of take a stab in the dark at each approach? Or is it more about strategy and strategic approach?
Got it. Okay, so this brings up a question. Now, there's two levels of our program. There's the blueprint, and then there's the mastermind. Are you at the blueprint level or the mastermind? Because this question sounds like to me you're at the blueprint. I'm not 100% certain, though.
We're at the blueprint level, yeah.
Got it. All right, got it. No problem. The reason I say that is because at the mastermind level, one of the first things that we do is it's 6 hours with me, where we go through some of these basic tips and strategies to be more efficient with time, so that you can get closer to hitting the mark first time out. And one of those is definitely to be there in person. Trying to do this at this stage of the business. Here's the big challenge and what you're up against, Crystal. You are up against prejudice, for lack of a better word, because CNN, CBS, ABC, and others have already told, or at least preliminary educated, the landlord that you're talking to about what this business is. And the challenge is that they did a poor job of it, because they did it by saying party house, Airbnb party house down the street. So it makes it really, really challenging to do this, like I said, over the phone. When you compound that with the fact that there's a lot of educational materials out there in the real estate space that have to do with, the late night commercials. It's hard for a person who's on the other end, who's screening people, to actually say or be of the mindset of, how do I know they didn't just stay up late one night and they're trying, there's a lot of things that they know that need to be done, but what they don't know is that you know them or even intend on doing them. They don't know the blueprint and the mastermind and we exist. They don't know that there's an organization that's been out here literally training thousands of people to do this in a professional manner, right? They don't know that because CBS, NBC, CNN also means constant negative news, by the way. They have not told them that, hey, you exist, right? So they make their own assumptions. And it has been very clear, it's usually best to, when you're on that phone, if you're making that phone, when you're on the phone, the only thing you're trying to do is get an appointment to see the place. And only after you're on site and during the walkthrough do we even begin to start to address a lot of what you're talking about right now. And I know the thought can be like, well, if I did it that way, that's a lot of places. And what's really key to the whole strategy is to eliminate the places your customer isn't likely to want, simply because of who they are, etc. And there's an entire process so that you only have a targeted approach for certain locations, and ultimately what it ends up doing is putting you in a more credible position. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So yeah, that's otherwise, yeah, you're going to spend a lot of time on the phone. Believe me, you should have seen me the first time I was going out. It was not, I was getting discouraged. I was like, man, this is crazy. It was to the point where, like, why am I doing this? I have all these other properties. I don't need to do this. It was very discouraging. And then I was speaking with actually one of our other students. Her name is Rebecca, and I told her what was going on. I was like, I think something ain't right here. And I was like, and then she said, "Oh, well, why are you saying that?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. I mean, and that's how we've always worked here at CashFlow Diaries. We all work very collaboratively, if I said that correctly. Anyway, so keep asking the questions, and we'll do our best to keep supporting you in every way that we can, of course.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing how this works. I'm gonna pull up now some of the questions. Oh, actually, you know what? Before I pull up those questions, we've got to talk about what is not on my screen right at the moment. We've got to talk about this. Nope, not that, and not that. That. That's what we've got to talk about. So what we've got to talk a little bit about is articles like this. There were two such articles, or articles very similar to this, that Skift recently reported on, and I'm going to lightly summarize what's going on here. Okay, so what it centers around is this right here. It centers around search engines. It centers around Google being awesome and who they are, because, you know, you can't really run your business without Google, right, these days. So what that simply means is that you've got to work with them. And if they make a change, then that change is going to affect you and a lot of your business. In essence, when it comes down to it, Google is beginning to influence how the customer finds a short-term rental place to stay. And they're doing this with elevating certain, let me show you this picture right here. They're elevating certain searches, okay, and prioritizing some above others. In this first article that you're looking at right here, what stood out to me is that Google chose the platforms that they wanted, whose listings they wanted to display. So some of those platforms are the companies that they chose were Home2Go, Vrbo, Expedia, Booking.com. Okay, so just think about that for a minute. What name did you not hear? Okay, there's a name you did not hear, right? So you got to understand that that's kind of interesting to me, and they can control this. Well, what also just happened is, there it is. What also just happened is then Booking.com decided to withdraw their listings from this new Google Vacation Rentals product as well. So in essence, what does that mean? That means from an organic search perspective, it would be unreasonable to expect your listings that are on Airbnb and or Booking.com to show up on the quote unquote first page or in any of these special, because they are developing this is the special search product that you see right here, where they have the 4-pack with the map and all this other stuff. You can literally not expect your listings to be there, which by default means a number of many different things. One of those being, you can't let Airbnb be your one-trick pony anymore. It's just not going to work, because you have a single point of failure in your business, and with a single point of failure can come the end of your business. So hopefully that makes more sense to you based upon what I'm saying right now. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, because I was like, there's a quote unquote war, fight, something's going on. I don't claim to know everything that's going on, but I do know as an entrepreneur, one of the things that we must do is respond to the marketplace and the changes that are making it. And if Booking.com and or Airbnb are some of your primary marketing channels, In fact, maybe you've recently noticed a severe dip in the number of reservations you've gotten. And it could simply be due to the listings no longer being placed where they used to have been placed inside of Google's organic search. So just keep that in mind as you're going out there and always evaluating what it is that you're looking at when it comes to your business. So just know that. And now it doesn't mean the business doesn't work. So don't start tripping. I'm just saying in general, make sure that that's something that's on your mind. Otherwise, you might end up making a incorrect decision about the direction of your business based upon that. All right. So let me see some of the comments that are coming in from the students. Let's see, who's this? So Tasha, can you talk about how many towels, sheets, and linen you put in your unit for each stay? Got it. So that's in towels, sheets, and linen. Got it. So Latasha, we actually, there's a file inside the file section that should have that information in there because it's broken down based upon number of beds and bathrooms. So hopefully that makes sense. But in essence, we tend to stock for max occupancy. All right. So the real question is, we stock for max occupancy, and we don't care how long they stay. It's more about how many people. And even if it's, maximum occupancy and they're staying 3 weeks, we don't typically keep giving them more and more towels. But they are free to go wash them themselves, or they can request another cleaning if they'd like, which also then includes additional linens, of course. Okay, David, to frame the context of the question, I don't have my first unit yet. That's okay, David. I appreciate it. Can you speak to the cash flow game? Where do I find it hosted, and why do I consider it purpose of it? Got it. Absolutely. So, yeah, many of you may know that I've spent a fair amount of time in the world of the Rich Dad People and the cash flow game. Cash flow game. I'm typing that there. So yes, there we go. The game was, as many of you know, was developed by Robert Kiyosaki and his wife a little while ago. And I tend to buy mine now. I used to buy them direct from them, but now I tend to buy them from Amazon. To be honest, it's just the easiest place to go get them. And yeah, that's the version that's currently out. So you can typically just buy them on Amazon, David. And at the end of the day, one of the reasons you see the materials in there, what I'm doing is that I'm teaching you how to attract individuals. Because see, for me, naturally introverted, so meeting new people is not, it's not. Initiating new relationships is not my cup of tea, I guess. And I had to learn that, okay, that being that way, I don't get a pass. The marketplace doesn't care. So I still have to find a way to attract customers. And similarly to how we were talking about earlier, how can I increase my odds with certain properties? The way to increase your odds with people is to filter, right? If you can filter out all the people who you don't have to, that have already filtered themselves based upon their own interest, then it makes it easy. So by holding a cash flow game, the people who come to show up and are willing to play a cash flow game are likely, not always, not guaranteed by any stretch of the imagination, but they are likely to be the ones that are in a position either mentally, emotionally, or financially, to actually take some sort of action upon the information that they learn while playing. So hopefully that makes some sense as I said it there, because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for individuals who are ready to take some sort of action when this is your business around it. One of the ways to do that is to host the game, because here, if you take the time to pick up Robert Cialdini's book, it is called, let me see if I can spell his name, because it is not easy. There it is. So Robert Cialdini's book is called Influence, okay? And if you pick this, feel free to pick this up, read it. But one of the ways that you can implement something from it is simply by understanding that the principle of reciprocity exists. So I boil all of that down to the following phrase: he or she who educates their market dominates their market. So if you become the teacher, they'll be willing to do business with you when they're ready, but you have to be willing to contribute to them first. And that sometimes can mean months, even years, before they're actually ready to do business, because they have a lot that they have to learn. And there's nothing wrong with that. They just have a lot that they have to learn. Okay. And you need to be prepared to make that happen as well. So yeah, that's really what it comes down to. So if that's what hopefully that answers your question and is close to what you were talking about and are looking for. Hold on one second. I'm trying to see if there's anybody on the call or on the line for calls as well. I don't think so. Uh-oh. Did I accidentally shut it down? I think I did. Oh no. Well, guess we're done with calls for today. What is it? Yeah, I think I actually did. Sorry, guys. Oh, nope. Call. Yeah, I'm looking at the queue. Nope, not there. Not there. I accidentally cut it off. Sorry. Well, we're done with calls for today. So let's get through the rest of the questions. Okay, let's see. Latasha, can you also talk about how to obtain guests that are looking for short-term rental due to being displaced and using an insurance claim to fund their short-term rental? Whom do we need to build relationships with, and how do we meet these people? Got it. So Latasha, if that's something that you're after, I'm going to, well, I don't know how many units you have right now, because that's one of the challenges is that they have, so if you can imagine, that person that you're talking about has their job every day is to find a place for somebody to stay. So you tend to need a lot of inventory to make that happen. So just understand that. And you typically aren't going to find them. They're usually going to find you. But once you have found them, developing a relationship with them is important. So for example, the next time the easiest way to make this happen is to, when you get an inquiry you ask that person who their adjuster is, or maybe sometimes it's the adjuster themselves that are contacting you, and you ask them, the rest of the company, who else is there, and develop the relationship that way. So hopefully that makes sense. Alex says, looking to generate more income with the units I already have, ideas would be great. No problem, Alex. I'm always testing and working on something, but here's some simple stuff I know you can do right now. Early arrival. If have you automated asking? That's all I'm asking. Have you automated asking for early arrival? Here's what I mean. Let's pretend that tonight you have no one staying in your unit, but tomorrow someone is arriving. Okay. Do you have any sort of automation that sends the upcoming guest a message that says, hey, we'd like to offer you the opportunity to arrive early? If you have that, or if you don't have that, that's one such thing. Obviously, you can do the same thing with late departure, right? You could do the same thing with extra cleaning. You can do the same thing with an extra parking spot. You can do the same thing with a lot of little things that tend to become extra revenue. However, one of the most consistent forms of extra revenue come from our security system, meaning because we run a tight ship, we know exactly what goes on, and we generate the documentation to prove it. Despite the maintenance cost on our security system, we have the ability to turn that into a profit center because people violate the rules all the time. Okay. Robin, lots of questions. Go for it. I will do my best. 1, offsite storage. It is making it very inefficient for our cleaners. They just want all the supplies in the unit. But with 5, I don't want to split my inventory. What are your suggestions for it being the most efficient? The most efficient is, when I say offsite, here's what I mean. So pretend you have an apartment complex and it's 200 units. You don't want any one of those units to have the supply closet. But on that same piece of property, if they have a storage room somewhere on the property itself, that's what I'm talking about. And if the cleaners are complaining about that being inefficient, I'm sorry, that's how you run it. Okay. And maybe you need to find some new cleaners. But if you're talking, when you say offsite, if you're saying like on a completely different property, yeah, I can see where they're coming from there. All right. But if it's on the same property, just not in the unit, that's what I'm talking about. That's what you need. That is the efficient way. What are your, okay, I did that. So 2, do you wash all the towels, including in the drawers and closets that haven't been used in the unit after a guest? Yes, we take them all out. I know that's not as efficient, but we take all of them out because we don't know what has or hasn't been done to them, if that makes sense. I just don't know. I'm not saying any guest has any sort of malintent, but not knowing is more of a risk, in my opinion. I'd rather pay the expense of washing it than not. So Joshua says, great stuff. Thank you. Wow. Note taken. In other words, don't put your eggs in one basket. Correct, Keisha. Don't put your eggs in one basket. Robin, another question. Third-party booking. Our last 3 bookings have been for a booking for a coworker, sister, designer. We sent them to the link on how to use the Airbnb for Work program, but no one has followed through. Yep, that's very normal. I don't know the question, though. I'm sorry, Robin. I don't see the question. Maybe it got cut off. Ross, hi, Jay. I heard that VRBO Airbnb will automatically turn on instant book for all the listings once connected to a property management software such as Logify. Is this correct? Yes and no. It depends, Ross, because depending on the software that you're using, there can be 2 different ways of connecting. There's what is considered maybe an iCal or a basic connection, and then there's an advanced and or pro, aka API connection. If it's vis-a-vis the API connection, the answer is yes, they're going to turn it on. If it's an iCal, you typically still can maintain that control. This will be a problem for my 30-plus day rentals where existing tenants want to have the first right of refusal. Do you know of any workaround? What do you mean? This will be a problem for my 30-plus day rentals where existing tenants have the first right of refusal? Ross, what I'm hearing is that you're not following the same system. How can an existing tenant have a first right of refusal? Because otherwise the calendar would be blocked. Huh? I'm not understanding, and it's leading me to believe you're doing something other than what we actually talk about, because you should be renting the place. You have 100% control over who's there. And if you have someone there who is already staying there for 30 days or more, great. Or maybe, let me see, how could this happen? Unless you're trying to tell me that inside your lease contract, and I don't know why you would do this, but if you're saying that when you have someone stay with you for 30, 60, 90 days, that before you take another reservation that could follow theirs, you give them a first right of refusal. I have no idea why you would want to do that. Because if anything, you would want to do the exact opposite. The moment you become aware of someone else having interest in that particular unit, you let them know, you let the existing tenant know, hey, we need to know, or just so you know, we're about to go ahead and book this. But I wouldn't keep my calendar blocked or give them any sort of first right of refusal. Because that's marketing time. Whoever pays money, nobody has a right of refusal. You got to pay the money. I don't know if I'm getting your question right, man, but if not, then type it differently. All right, Susan, We'll be watching a replay. Got to get ready for power outage tomorrow. Yep, for those rentals in NoCal, might have to deal with this. Have you got your generator? She brings up a good point. There's been notifications out in California anyway. Power outages are being planned and coming, so make sure you do have a generator, especially for your guests. Replying, good question. Following, I had a lead for, I don't understand. Alex says he hosts CashFlowDiary or CashFlow every Friday in Kansas City. That's awesome. How do I handle when someone books for someone else? Got it. When someone makes a reservation on behalf of another party, instead of referring them to the link, typically what we'll do is we'll let them know that that's not allowed because we've already got the confirmation by that point. And we help them understand here are ways to fix it. One of the ways to fix it is have the other person register. Ta-da. Very simple, can be easily done. Another one, because we have to deal with that, especially with business travelers, you're going to have to come up with a process that you're satisfied with in dealing with that, because there's just no other way to make it happen. John, David, got it. Okay, excellent. All right, so that looks like all the student questions. Now we get to, let me see. Well, we can't do any more calls because I pressed the wrong button and managed to shut it down on accident. Sorry. So we will, what are we looking for then? What I'm looking for here are the comments that I see here. Excellent. So, oh my gosh, this is a long one. So it says, hey Jay, I secured a lease for a town house in Vancouver, Washington. Got it. It doesn't have AC, but has heat. Most places have AC around here for summer months, which AirDNA confirms. My question is, should I get a portable AC to check off that box, or how would you proceed? Owner says he has AC hookups, but doesn't want to do it right now because the cost is $4,000. What kind of AC costs $4,000? Okay, so Aaron, this is very similar to April earlier. It depends on, so again, when you're talking more units at a time, these types of conversations get easier. And I'm sure there are many people watching right now who are somehow offended that someone would even tell you that installing AC is $4,000. Okay, I'm sure. So I'm sure there's got to be someone up there in Vancouver, Washington that knows how to get that done for significantly less. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is I would tell him he needs to do it. I mean, if the hookups are already there, you're literally just putting something in the window. Or I don't know how he plans on doing it, whatever. I'm assuming it's a window unit. Even if it's not, you could still get a mini split installed, which would ultimately probably be even better depending on the floor plan. And anyway, my point in saying all of that is I would not put yourself at a disadvantage. And I would help the landlord understand that you're bringing value to the table. Because if also, Aaron, if you're telling me that the rest of the units around there have AC, if he was going to a traditional tenant, he'd have to put an AC, because otherwise what would happen is people would keep comparing his place to the other places that have AC, and he would just stay vacant longer. So again, he may not have spent the $4,000 on the AC, but he'll spend it on vacancy, right? So there are many reasons why he should do it, especially if that's customary in that particular area. So hopefully that helps. All right, Troy, is there any pros to using Guesty over Lodgify? Sweet Jesus. What are the cons of each? Not real techie, not ready to start on the direct bookings. Thanks. Okay, you not being ready to start on the direct bookings is not a reason to that doesn't mean you get the privilege of building on a faulty foundation. And again, I've used Guesty, and ultimately, here's what I'm going to say. I'm just going to sum it up for you. They're too expensive for what you get, period. And yeah, that's just what it is. They're too expensive for what you get. The year that I stopped using Guesty, I don't remember how many units we had at that time, but it was way less than what we got now. And they were full on almost $30, if not $40,000 on an annual basis. Whereas that same year, switching to a different system, dropped that to, I want to say it was like $2,700, which then gave rise to my ability to hire my own customer service team that I could then customize and tweak and make work the way that I actually wanted to. Anyway, we got better by getting rid of them. So yeah, Troy, I don't know if you're in our Facebook group, but if you're in the student Facebook group, post that question in the group and you'll see quickly, very quickly. All right. Emily is asking, I really need some clarification on the exact tools to use for automation other than the Vivid and Channel Manager. Are there other tools that we need here I'm not finding in the training necessarily? Emily, it's module 3. It's module 3 or 4 inside the mastermind. And it's when you go through the 6-hour training we go over that in detail. Maybe you just haven't had your 6-hour training class yet, but the list, it's all there. So hopefully, again, module 3 and 4. Let's see, Brad Yamamoto. Jay, it's been a while. I keep coming back. Well, welcome back, Brad. Glad that you are here. Carol says, howdy. Also, does the landlord have to obtain the permit? I thought we did that, but my city contact said the owner. Emily, I'm not, again, the ordinance section is on when we go through the property evaluation worksheet. That's, again, also in the mastermind product. Ultimately, I'm going to answer by saying, read the ordinance and do what it says. You cannot reliably call or even talk to anyone at the city and expect or even hope that they know the answer. Follow the ordinance, because anytime you are talking to someone at a governmental organization and you can then help them read the document that they claim to be enforcing or helping you with, it will help you get clarification. And that's really what I'm saying. Ultimately, that's the answer, because there are some cases, like I'm thinking about San Clemente out here. San Clemente they have a path for the operator to get the permit, and they have a path for the owner to get the permit. So read the ordinance is the answer, because both of them could be correct. It just depends on what your ordinance says. Let me see. Jeff, how would you get into the business of providing the cleaning service for the Airbnb? Well, Jeff, you create a great opportunity for me to remind everybody. What we do is short-term rentals. We don't, and again, the reference the article I talked about earlier. This is why you don't have an Airbnb business, because if you had an Airbnb business, articles like we talked about earlier today would be very, very distressing for your business, period. But because you have a short-term rental business, how would I get into the business providing the cleaning service for short-term rentals? How would I? Well, I know one thing I do for sure is that I would go make a reservation at one of the, because it's easy to tell who in your area has a lot of listings. I would go stay at one of their listings, and after staying at one of their listings, I might comment about the quality of the service that they have. That could be one way of doing it. But at the end of the day, what you're looking for are customers and contacts. And the question is where do short-term rental entrepreneurs hang out, right? And wherever they hang out, that's where you want to go fish. That's where you want to be to build your business. With that being said, maybe you want to even still do a cash flow game, because that could be interesting. You know, there are many ways to attract people to you, but once they're attracted, you must also communicate, promote, if you will, what services it is that you have to offer, so that if/when they run into someone, they can also help refer you to the person that you're looking for. Even property managers would be a great place to start. I mean, I think all of those would be great places to start. Says, I'm ready to start, Jay. Good. Troy, please do that. Now o'clock. And many of you know that that's like my favorite phrase. So yeah, let's absolutely do that. Aaron Sayers. In fact, Troy, if you haven't, quote unquote, started already, just go to CashFlowDiary.com/start. It'll give you a basic overview of what we have available, as well as the industry as a whole. And as you've heard, we have 2 levels. There's the blueprint and there's the mastermind. Long story short, I'm going to recommend the mastermind all day, especially for those of you who want more than one unit. I know, and you're into using apartment buildings and being way more creative, because it's a 3-phase system that we have available, Troy, where it starts with getting 1 unit, then taking that one, making it multiply. And then after you've done that, you take that cash flow that you're generating with proper cash management techniques. You take that cash flow, and then what you do is you pump that into whatever type of investment you want to do, you know. So that's easily done, and that's what we help people to do. So you figure out where you fit in. Most people come to us because they want to do all 3 of those, which is great, and that's what we want. We want more entrepreneurs who are generating a significant income with less time. All right, Aaron, I believe if a owner landlord owns 6 standalone houses side by side, and they're willing to work with you, but they have an HOA that's in charge of 80 houses in that area, would you still pursue those houses? No, I most likely not. I would, at least, if I was even remotely interested, I would still want to read the CC&Rs. And similar to how I was saying, Emily, you got to go read the ordinance. Now you got to go read the CC&Rs, because you need to know the rules, for lack of a better way of putting it. And if there's room in the ordinance for me to operate, then great. Many of the CC&Rs, though, do have a restriction on length of stay, and it's usually 28 and or 30 days. And again, fine, that doesn't mean you can't run the business. So the question then just comes, do you want to operate the type of business that the rules allow for? If the answer is yes, then proceed, because there's business out there that is 30 plus days. So meaning people who stay a minimum of 30 days or more. So that business is out there. The only question is if you are choosing to participate in it or not. Again, you don't have to, because it's a choice as an entrepreneur of whom you wish to serve. So, but yeah, read the HOA. Read the CC&Rs. The HOA formation document is not going to help you. Oh my goodness, that's what I was about to say. Troy, I meant I'm ready to begin direct bookings. Oh. I'm starting unit number 22. Awesome, dude. Crushing it. I like that right there. Because again, you've got to go out there. Again, it's your business. Airbnb is a marketing channel. TripAdvisor, Expedia.com. You got to have these marketing channels in order to bring the customer to you, peoples. And I know you know this intuitively, but you're probably, maybe this is the first time you've been in touch with just how much work it is to make all of that happen. And that's also great, you know, and at the end of the day, what you want to do is you just want to keep on building. Like what Dory say, keep swimming, just keep building, anyway, you get the idea. Because on the other end of all of that is everything that you quote unquote are hoping for. So let me see if there are any more questions here from the Facebook, from our Facebook group. What? Why y'all are talking about the weather? Okay, got it. Let me see. Scroll. And what is this? Is he talking about central air. You know, Stinny, that's the only thing I could have thought. I was like, if it's $4,000, the only other thing I could think of that would come close to that could be central air, but I'm not really sure. But if he is, then okay, maybe. But even then, he still needs to add some sort of AC. Then that's all the more reason to use a mini split. But that's a whole nother story. All right. Moving on. Robin, do you still let the guests stay if they booked for someone else? So long as they follow through those other procedures. So if the person who is staying, if they go and register and create an account, not going to have a problem with that. If they understand that the person who made the reservation is the one that it's the only one that we're authorized to communicate with, and the only one we will communicate with. So all information will have to flow through that person. Again, that can also create a situation in which we're okay with it. There are ways to create to get okay with it. So I guess the answer to your question is yeah. I mean, of course, I'm not gonna turn away the reservation unless they're absolutely unwilling and obstinate about following any of it. That's when we go, okay, now we have a problem. So hopefully that makes some sense. Brian, Jay, did you think about what to do when Vivint is not available? The discussion was specific to Puerto Rico. Oh, crud. Nah, man, I totally forgot. Sorry, hold on. I'm going to write it down this time. My bad. I spaced on that one. Actually, hold on, Brian, did you, so I'm going to tag you right now because the best answer is going to be ask my wife. Because she's going to be the one. She tends to handle all of the utilities and security contracts and vendors of that nature. So yes, so I just tagged you in the group because that'll be easier. That'll be easier for everybody involved. So nonetheless, let me see. I think we got all the questions, or at least those are all the ones that I see. Again, I apologize for not even knowing what I did that cut off the phone today. So for those of you who wanted to call, hopefully you got a chance to type in the question instead. And if you didn't get a chance to type in the question, I apologize. Just come back next week, maybe. I don't know. Don't hate on me too bad, because stuff happens. And at the end of the day, we're here to serve as best we possibly can, because we want you guys out there creating a different life for yourself. So with all of that being said, what I just want to say is that, again, I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I appreciate you taking the time to call in to help us, help you, and most importantly, prove to the world that it can be done. And there's nothing wrong with asking a question that you don't know the answer to, so that you can go out there and become greater. Now, with all that being said, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.